We're about to start. We're starting a little bit late, but we'll catch up some of the flights, like the airline pilots, they say we'll catch up later on. This is an interesting panel because Dr. Fagade, can you come close to me, please, so I can control you better?
That'd be nice.
Come close to me.
Thank you.
No, it's what the minister was saying early on. You know, we always treat our guests as special people. That we give them priority and everything. So we'll start with you in a minute, okay?
Thank you. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. This panel is about exploring smart, sustainable, innovative business models, tourism models, in order for tourism to develop and to be successful. My name is Dimitris Bouchalis. I work in Bournemouth University. I'm Greek by origin. I lived in Greece for 22 years, and I live in the UK for 35 years. In fact, I'm not living in the UK. I'm living a little bit of everywhere, helping countries around the world to develop their tourism and make sure that the tourism is meaningful and is supporting their own communities. It makes sense. I'm known for technology and how technology is creating competitive advantage and how we can do smart tourism. And I think this is an opportunity to talk with this fantastic panel about tourism business models and how Nobody speaks in my class, okay. Thank you. How we can develop business models in a way that they're sustainable, they're smart, and they contribute to the local economies. So I'll start from Dr. Fagade, because he's our guest, and all the other guys, they're very good friends. There are 3 Greeks and 1 honorary Greek, Maltese, but he's close. So I'll introduce Dr. Fagade. When I look at his CV, he's got so many different things, and now he's heading he's the Director General of the National Institute of Hospitality and Tourism in Nigeria.
Yeah, thank you.
Coming from the private sector, have different kind of areas we talked about last night. Thank you for sending your CV. I'll ask you a little bit to explain a little bit more in a minute. The gentleman next to that is Dimitris Manikis. I met Dimitris 35 years ago, and we are still traveling together quite often as the Dimitris, and we do a show. Panos is younger, so it's probably I met him 20 years ago. So Dimitris is the president of Witham Hotels, EMEA, so which means Europe,
Middle East, Eurasia, and Africa.
Thank you. Please help. Panos Almiradis is with Ella Hotels. 8 hotels?
Ella Resorts, 8
Ella
hotels.
Resorts, 8 hotels. And he's also the president of the European Hotel Management Association. Andrew Muscat is the Director General of Maltese Hotel and Restaurant Association. And with Andrew, we work together, and he is heading the Mediterranean Forum, and I'm helping with the academic input into that. Absolutely wonderful. Bring the whole Mediterranean area together and actually start getting the knowledge that we've got in Mediterranean region all together. And last but not least, Yannis Papas is an old friend who is an expert on sustainability. And Yannis is spending a lot of time going around in different places as the Mediterranean region director for the Global Sustainable Tourism Council. So short introductions, and I hope that's okay. And I've kind of had some questions to get us started and to discuss, but I like that to be a very interactive discussion with each other. If you like to turn your middle seats a little bit back, Panos and Dimitris, so you'll see the other speakers as well. I'd like to make it a little bit like a little theater kind of thing, rather than each of you answering one question and being boring. So the first thing is really for me is how can we use smart technologies to develop sustainable tourism and towards having sustainable business models that will make sense to actually invest in your countries. And what do we learn from Europe that can help African developments I've done quite a lot of work in Africa. I understand the challenges in Africa, and each different country has got different challenges and different opportunities. The other thing I need to ask you to pay attention is that when we talk about tourism, 90% of the times we're talking about leisure tourism. Okay. Please do not make that mistake, because business tourism, MICE, conference incentives, and all the rest of it is also a part of tourism and travel. And in fact, I'm going to say a secret now that you're not supposed to reveal. The most profitable route of British Airways is London to Lagos, with all the business travelers that they are going there. So it's not only leisure, it's also business tourism as well. So if I can start from Dr. Fagade, to look into how smart technologies, and I understand that you've done study on that and you've worked on this in the past, how can smart technologies can help sustainable tourism development in Nigeria and then the broad African region?
Yeah, thank you very much, Professor. Before I start, I need to put this on the table. Africa is not a country. Africa is a continent.
Yeah.
That's got 50-something countries in it. And our diversity makes us attractive as a continent. And you need to treat every country with their uniqueness. For example, in Nigeria, I would tell you that data-driven destination management is part of what we're trying to do to make the experience unique. Because, you know, when you have data and you probe the data properly and you set the algorithm right, you'll be able to identify the preferences of your tourist. So we are using data-driven destination management and also personalizing our experience in terms of marketing. You know, Nigeria as a country, how do you market a country who is multifaceted in terms of natural resources? We are a bit of everything in the world. We have a safari. The only thing we don't have is snow. So what we're trying to do in that country is to make sure that we use data, AI, to narrow down on individual experiences. You mentioned right now that conference, seminar, tourism is big. We are trying to see how much of that we can attract in Nigeria. We have a workforce that is ready for the future. And now at all, what we are moving from a phase of just being a training institute to a regulator for an industry that has been abandoned for about 38 years. Nigerians are known for some certain things that are not even regulated by the government. For example, our movies, then our music. Government is not involved. That was done by an individual. And currently, as we speak today, the body language of the government in Nigeria is changing towards tourism because we are looking at post-oil. If the countries like Dubai, Morocco, that have that overall kind of numbers that we have can promote tourism. Now imagine when our body language is changing and we're at a place where we are laying solid foundation through the help of AI to make sure that we catch up with the rest of the world. And also in human capital development, we are using technology in our training system. Because of our numbers and distance, what we are doing a lot of online programs to enhance training. We are doing a lot of conferences to enhance knowledge sharing. We are trying to bridge the gap with the help of technology. I think I'll stop there now to give my colleagues time to talk.
I keep talking about Nigeria because I've got probably 20% of my students on the Masters on Tourism and Hospitality are from Nigeria, and I'm constantly very impressed how resilient they are, how they find ways of doing different things. And what's very interesting is that they are not relying on heavy technologies. They rely on mobiles, and they're doing so much more on the mobile rather than invest on a big mainframe computer, you know, big program and all the rest of it. And the flexibility and the way that they're operating is something unique. And I think that's an opportunity to expand in the tourism industry. and actually, here's promotion for Bournemouth University, to employ my students back in the key positions in Nigeria, because they've already have experienced England and Europe for 2 years, and they bring expertise, and they're bringing both from us and also working with industry. Some of my students are working for Windham Hotels, thanks to Dimitris, who is employing them and gives them the opportunity to do internship and different things. And Dimitris is very experienced. He's traveling constantly. Yes, he's traveling much more than me. And how many properties have you got in Africa?
We've got, I mean, in my region, I've got about 700 properties. We've got 25 in Africa. Africa is the region that we are less developed, to be fair. And the reason is because the independent hotels are far more than the branded hotels. We've got 25 brands. We've got 3 brands represented in Africa, but I have to admit, and you're absolutely right, it's not a country, it's a continent. I think we've made the mistake when we start developing in Africa. We thought we're going to treat Africa as one country, but then we realized that was wrong. In Africa, the challenge that we see is that you need a lot of people in order to create footprint in the country. So you need a lot of stuff to start, doing your business development. We were not ready. We were actually having a plan just before COVID, but then COVID hit, and obviously priorities have changed. But we're unrepresented in Africa, and I fully agree. And listening to everybody this morning, it's where the future lies. Not necessarily just development-wise, but people-wise as well.
And I understand, Dimitri, that the reason why you are here, apart from me asking you and promising you different things, is that you would like to expand in Africa.
Yeah. One thing, I mean, you asked about technology and how technology. I think the hospitality industry is the industry that is less developed in technology than many other industries, right? Mm-hmm. We managed to do more stuff during COVID than we have done 10 years ago. The challenge that we've got in Europe, which is not necessarily happening in India, I spend a lot of time in India, and now I have to spend a lot of time in Africa, obviously. One thing that is different with what you see in Europe, and I think Panos has seen that in his world, we've got less young people who are interested to work in hospitality in Europe. Hospitality is not sexy in Europe, unfortunately. It's not an interesting job.
I'll disagree with you. Hospitality is super sexy.
Only because of you, but what about...
No.
Yeah, what about...
Look,
yeah, you're talking about yourself.
There are bits in hospitality that my students are gagging to do. They would like to meet people. They would like to be hospitable. Who would like to be a pot washer?
That's what I mean. Exactly.
Who would like to be a cleaner?
Yeah.
Why not? Because it's really hard work, and because you work in a very difficult situations. So when I was in Hong Kong, I took vice presidents from Rosewood Hotels, from Marriott, and different things, because the middle class men were saying, oh, the young people do not want to come in. And I said, yes, they don't want to do jobs that are not inspiring. But if we can use robots to build a whole Toyota Corolla car, why we cannot clean a bloody pot?
No, I mean, let me just, the challenge is, and I work a lot with various universities in Europe, 60% of the hospitality graduates from hospitality schools do not stay with hospitality. That's a fact. We are the only industry, we're the only educational institutes in the world that we teach social skills. And everybody needs the things that we learn in our universities. Our graduates, the hospitality graduates, are the most demanded hospitality graduates among the public sector, the private sector, the banks, private equity, because we teach social skills. Yeah. We teach people how to dress, how to talk, how to behave, how to be hospitable to people, how to service people. So that's one. In Europe, because we have less young people working in the industry, the adaptation of technology is less fast, right? It's slower, because you've got people like me in my 60s to actually deploy new ideas and new methods that I'm not used to it, right? Half of the apps that I've got on my phone, I don't know what they do. So that's the reality. Where in your case, or in India, for example, the young population is still very passionate about hospitality. They want to have a career. And that's where I see we learn from them, where they learn from us not to do the mistakes we've done.
Absolutely. Let me bring Panos in because I can see that he's ready. And Panos is an
He
experienced...
was born ready.
He was born ready. He's an experienced general manager, and he sees all these things on the front line, not on the headquarters. And plus, with his European Hotel Management Association hat on, he sees that on a pan-European kind of level.
Yeah, well, on what Dimitris just said, I mean, first of all, you're very lucky because you have students at the university. The big question to me is always what we do prior to them reaching the university, because that's the point that they have already decided to follow the hospitality industry and the hotellerie. So what do we do before? When they're 12-year-old, when they're 14-year-old, to lead them and show them how super sexy this world can be and what it can offer them. Yes, indeed. I mean, putting two hats, one from the European Hotel Manager Association perspective and the GM, it is a challenge. It's always going to be a challenge. But since we're here to talk about smart technologies on this question that you have raised, Dimitri, if someone deep dives into what Africa is doing currently, you'll see so many different things. We're talking about artificial intelligence, and you do have countries in the African region that are following that. And to someone like me that wishes to attend a safari, and I have no idea what this is all about, through artificial intelligence, I can get a look and feel, which is particularly important. You do have other places in Africa that when it comes to the Internet of Things, they use waste management approaches in order to see how they will handle the infrastructure in conjunction with the hotels and hospitality administrations they manage. And you have the great example of South Africa when it comes to big data, that they really check and control what is happening globally in relation to hotels, to flight capacities, in conjunction with the tactical campaigns and offers that they will give globally. Now, that is astonishing, and let us not forget the example of Egypt, that right after the COVID, the post-COVID era, they have applied a lot of different techniques in order to ensure that safety is succeeded. So practically, when we're talking about smart technologies in the African region, I think it's a very transformative opportunity in conjunction with showcasing local authenticity.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Andrew, you're wearing so many hats. The director of the Maltese Hotel and Restaurant Association, but also you're a consultant, you're a think tank thinker and a creator of. Where do you see all of these things and how technology is bringing together sustainable business models?
I'll be sharing with you an experience that we spearheaded a couple of years ago. In 2019, actually, I heard our Nigerian friends talking about music. And music is a unifier. And we could see that, especially me coming from the Mediterranean region, where it's very rich when it comes to music. However, we tend to keep our cultures, our identities to ourselves. And that is where we saw the opportunity. We wanted to bridge, we wanted to use technology, the latest technologies, building on the traditional technologies such as radio station and TV stations, but going more onto the social media side. And we started with a dream, and we wanted to create a fusion of Mediterranean music by bringing together 17 top pop stars from across the Mediterranean, bringing together 60 musicians for an orchestra, but also complementing it with a choir, a virtual choir, with singers coming from all the countries of the Mediterranean. And this, of course, this innovative aspect of having a virtual choir, in 2019, this was pre-COVID, because, of course, during COVID, then it became something which was quite the norm. It created the attraction, created the curiosity. Apart from the fact that then once people were watching us, they were discovering our beautiful music, our identities. The fact that we are so diverse, yet at the same time, we're similar. And so technology is not something which is confined to the techies. technology should be seen as a tool that can help us not just cut costs, not just improve efficiency, but also as a way to promote ourselves. Because the key word, and now I'm sure we got a bit fed up about talking the experience, the importance of the experience in the tourism industry. And maybe the more we talk about it, maybe we took it now as a cliche, but we need to think about it actually and really live up to creating real experiences by using technology to enhance that experience, to be closer and appeal to the people, to the right people who we want to come to visit our countries.
And what you are kind of implying is platform technologies of collaboration, sharing knowledge, music, art, culture, all of those things, and co-creating knowledge, value, by bringing all the different resources. And the beautiful thing that technology is bringing is it enables people to come online, meet each other, and operate in a very collaborative kind of way, and create the ecosystem. And that then gives me the link to Yannis, where the sustainability, because you are primarily focusing on sustainability of resources. And I like to bring the bridge between how technologies actually help us with sustainability. I don't know if you've realized, but we're all talking about sustainability, but it's like a religion kind of thing. It's like the Pope is going to do, bless him, sustainability. We're still drinking water out of plastic bottles. We're still using air conditioning. You're still using enormous amount of energy to use AI. All of those things are environmentally degrading. So, Yannis.
Yes. I think what is coming right now in the next, let's say, years about sustainability and behind that is that we see a collapse of many things, especially the need for more flexibility in all these regulations, especially from Europe, exporting this kind of reporting and necessity of matrices and KPIs. So this very tough system is a moment of judging how efficient it could be, because we can start discussing about this sustainability from the very typical small things like water, energy, waste management. Then we go into the culture, how we can connect the authenticity, how we can make this kind of promotion and coming to the ecosystem that we discuss. Is it going to be the top-down from the destination point of view to the SMEs? It's going to be from the bottom up. I mean, right now we have more than 90% of this product coming from small, medium enterprises, all right? It's not coming from the big ones. The big ones are the leaders, are the drivers, but if we would like to change the market, to change the mentality, to change the mindset, we need to introduce and implement this technology to the SMEs. Otherwise, there is nothing over there, because it's not a matter of having this kind of results, and outside, we are losing this ability to communicate the message. I think right now, what we see is that how the technology is going to meet the necessity of things that can be proved. In the next years to come, we are going to see this necessity from European legislation about green claims and this kind of stuff, saying that if you would like to say that you are sustainable enough, you need to have evidences verified. So this is a big story behind, because these platforms, these technologies are going to go to the ground, and we would like to have in small, let's say, entities, small enterprises, small family-based units, like you have most of it in areas like Africa and many others, how these people can really interact and, let's say, verify their claims, how they can do that in the real life. And I think this is going to be the challenge. And from one side, we're going to have the technology. From the other side, we're going to see this necessity of flexibility on regulation / necessity for the market. The client is asking, like Mr. Theoharis said, but we are going to see how this balance is going to work. I think technology, Dimitris, is going to play a critical role on that. And from the moment that we're going to have this downscaling to our mobile phone, and not in big platforms and all these big things that most of the people don't care about that, we're going to see a very big change.
Thank you very much. I think we have time for one more round, realistically, because Aradana is looking at me, kind of make sure that you're on time kind of thing. Okay. And I think the next, and we answer a lot of the things out of the questions that were originally discussed, but the thing that really bothers me, or the thing that I think is really, really critical, is the partnership element. How can we get governments to talk to and work with the private sector, to work with education and research institutions, and most importantly, to work with the local communities. And the local communities, they need to be part of what we're developing. And what we need to do is we need to bring the impacts, the positive impacts, to the local communities, not only the negative impacts. We need to protect areas environmentally. We need to protect housing for people who really need to have affordable housing. We need to provide resources to our staff so they feel valuable and they feel protected. And I think the key element to me is partnerships. So if we can start this conversation on how can we link together governments, private sector, investment, research universities, and the local communities, and how we can create ecosystems that are sustainable, smart, and innovative at the same time.
Unlike every other sector, I think the partners, which are the investors that are coming to Africa, they should not think return on investment on the short term. Because if you want your return on investment on the short term, you're making a short-term investment that can't be recuperated in Africa. So by doing some joint infrastructural development, for example, I was in South Africa, Cape Town, about 3-4 weeks ago, and the Table Mountain has been in existence for almost a decade. And, I'm sorry, 100 years. So, and they have this cable system that worked for, they've changed it like 4 times. The cable takes you up the hill and brings you back. That's a lot of investment, and it's been done over the years. We have Idore Hill in Nigeria. If you're going to do that cable right now in Nigeria, it will cost you millions of dollars. For an investor to come in and want to recuperate that in 5 years, I don't think it makes any sense. So in partnering with Nigeria and government, the investors have to look at long-term and develop infrastructure that can support that tourism system. Then also, the knowledge gap. We need to make sure that we have a workforce that is very agile, very futuristic. We need to bring the training system closer to them. It's also very important to know that Nigerians are very resilient and restless. And we are pace-setter in Africa. Whatever that catches fire in Nigeria would go viral in Africa. So if investors can understand that despite whatever it is that they're thinking in their head, if you can capture Nigerian markets, this time around, not for the natural resources that are going to be exported, but for development of Nigeria, Africa will evolve from that. I'll leave that at that.
Thank you. I think that's very helpful. Can I just say what I'm saying to my African students, not only to Nigerians? I think it's really, really critical for Africa to learn to work internally together, because so far we've seen a lot of competition between the countries. Until recently, if you want to go from one African country to another, you almost guaranteed that you had to come out to London or to go to Paris and come back. So you need to create the bridges within Africa and to create the Pan-Africa kind of thing. It's challenging, eh?
Even though I dislike talking about it, it's easier for me to go to Paris than to go to Rwanda.
Or to Ghana.
But those are challenges that can actually easily be resolved when we look internally and we understand that we are who we are and we are brother's keeper. And the politics that is being played is more, some people wouldn't want Africa to unite.
Yeah.
I don't know who,
but also, but I really want to make that point, and I really want to put the emphasis on of Africa to Africa.
If you're really talking about this, the day that Africa comes together, the day that African countries come together, that will be the end of most countries in Europe.
Yeah.
Trust me.
Yeah.
And some people power play wouldn't want that to happen. And this is not a forum to be discussing that, but today, if Africans can say, we want to start doing trading amongst ourselves, we wear African clothing, we drive cars from South Africa, we would only travel amongst ourselves. Do you know how many $1 million that will be revolving within Africa?
Absolutely.
More than ever before, I would say it again, I've said it to individuals here. I think the world needs Africa more than we need you.
Yeah.
Only just don't realize that you need us more than we need you.
Absolutely. And I think that is a critical condition, that we need to help Africa to create the ecosystem within Africa and to work with different countries to actually develop the continent in a way that's beneficial across the continent, across everybody around the world. And I think it's a powerhouse, absolute powerhouse that you've got.
No, I mean, I would agree. We all come from the 5 or 7 mothers of Africa, so we all come from Africa. So we're all Africans. I spend a lot of time in India. India would say exactly the same. You all need India. I think we all need each other.
Yeah.
I think humanity can only survive if we all realize that we're all one race and we all depend on each other to make things right. I do believe I had the pleasure of living in South Africa for 5 years. It was one of the best experiences of my life. I think Africa has so much to offer to the world, but it's not going to be a sprint, it's a marathon. It's going to take time. I think a united Africa is not a threat to Europe. Actually, it's a blessing to Europe. It's a compliment. We're getting older in Europe. I'm a perfect example, unlike Panos. We are getting older. We don't want to do jobs that our African friends are very proud of doing. We need their resources. We need their knowledge. There are more Africans, you said it. There are more Nigerians in your class. Where are the Europeans? Because they don't care about education, but where are they? So we need Africa. Africa needs Europe. Europe needs India. India needs... So I think humanity is one. We need a Greek to head up as Secretary General.
That's a hint.
That's a hint. So make sure that a Greek can unite as we've done 5,000 years ago. Talking about the private sector and the public sector, I think the private sector is not the evil empire anymore. I think we're all shareholders of companies that they operate in the private sector. We don't always get it right. It's a struggle. I think education is going to play a key role, and I'm not saying this because you're there, but how do you actually bring the young generation to understand that this is actually not a sprint, it's a marathon, it's going to take time. Like everything in life, you talk about sustainability. If you don't educate your staff, you're never going to have any sustainable structure or strategy in your own hotel. I learned how to be sustainable by my 2 daughters, right? They taught me how to be sustainable. If it wasn't for them, I would be the worst thing humanity ever came across, because I'm like, my waste management is worse than 1 million Chinese. So we all learn. Education is going to be key. I think working together with the public sector is a must. It's an ecosystem that it cannot survive any other way. And I want to remind everybody, because I work for a company that is listed on Wall Street, and sometimes, that whole thing about the private sector. We are shareholders of these companies. Our kids' future depend on those companies actually doing well. So we all have a vested interest for the private sector, the public sector, and all of those who are part of that ecosystem to do well. I don't think there is any animosity here. And I'll tell you what, I was in Tbilisi, Georgia, 3 weeks ago. Here you are in the hotel and you had Russians, Ukrainians, Israelis, Iranis, and Iraqis in the hotel lobby, all enjoying themselves. That tells you something about who
Humanity.
we are. We are humanity, and we're the industry of peace.
Absolutely.
And that's what we contribute to the world,
Absolutely.
private or public.
I like that.
Panos, with your experience, with the European experience, how do you see the different systems operating, and how is this partnership coming together, and what can we do together to help different regions?
Well, you mentioned three important aspects. You talked about local communities, you said government, and you said private investors. If I would go first to the private investors, you know, there's a saying that says, America creates, Europe legislates, and China imitates. If we can combine all that together in order to attract private investors, what do private investors want? First of all, they do not want bureaucracy. And God, aren't we full of that in Europe? We're gradually changing that in Greece, which is why we've attracted foreign investment. And I think this is very critical for Africa. And that's a very primal concern of everybody. If you do not attract private investors having solved all these legislation challenges and bureaucracy, you will never see long-term. Going to government, you need the governments, you need infrastructure, you need them to be in par with your rationale. You need to establish a mindset. And when you talk about local communities, you definitely need this local community because they have the authentic element. They are the ones, for example, I was reading the other day that there are very many across Africa, different eco-lodges that are being run and operated by local communities. What's the advantage of that? First of all, it's pride. And African people have pride, they have smile, they're very intuitive. And since I understand that we're not going to have the opportunity to speak more, let me just say one thing that is in reference to the human resources element, as Dimitris mentioned earlier. Europe ages, and Europe does not give birth to people, and Europe has a challenge when it comes to workforce. Africa gives birth, infant mortality has dropped, and you have great and very fertile ground for developing hospitality in general. So I think that all this knowledge that Europe brings, combined with synergies that will be done within the African region from every single country. You talked earlier about hotel schools and hospitality schools, which are transformed to business schools, okay? I don't know if it's 60 or 40% and so on, but you start as a hospitality student, you end up as, you know, or actually right in the middle of your education, you're like, should I step further to business or sustain myself in hospitality? So Africa is a great example of going out there and showcasing what you can succeed. And I'm sure that you can succeed very many things, provided that you do synergies with hotel institutions, educational centers, colleges across the globe.
And we are more than happy to support, as part of the global knowledge dissemination that we are encouraging, all the educational establishments. And I'm sure that many colleagues will be willing to share resources, to engage with different people, make sure that the partnership is coming out. I'll go to Yannis first, and then I'll come to you, Andrew. And Andrew, prepare to help me summarize this as a thinker. And Andrew, Yannis, how do you see the partnership? So when you talk to governments, what do you ask them to do? How can they be more sustainable? Is that regulation? Is that what is your perspective on how we can become more sustainable in terms of what we do in tourism?
Yeah, I think, first of all, it's not, let's say, a unique solution. Every different case is based on the mentality of the people of the country. For example, one of the most successful examples that the Global Sustainable Tourism ran in the last 5 years is with Turkey. So they came to us, and we have built together the national scheme about sustainable tourism, which is based on regulation and obligation to everyone. So that runs very efficient. Everyone's inside. The public and the private sector are working together in a very smooth way, and it's a very successful case. However, it's not the one that is going to be the same model everywhere, because the top-down, the bottom-up, the regulation is the recipe or something else. It depends on the mentality. However, if we go in between, not just, let's say, on the ground, but not even on the national, but let's say on the destination level, that could be, let's say, a region or, let's say, a big city or even a small city, We have seen with criteria using on an assessment cases that the PPPs, the public-private partnerships, in any kind of, let's say, way, is the key point for success and go to a smooth transition towards really sustainability on the ground. However, it's very important, and I'm going to, let's say, to conclude with that, that you need, someone has to see really the supply chain. The supply chain in every kind of activity is very crucial. I was been actually in Botswana in late 2018, and we have seen something which is very difficult to see, let's say, in Europe. Very small or middle-sized lodges, eco-lodges, purely it depended from any kind of external electricity supply, waste management, water. It was there operating really sustainable. How many in Europe can really operate like that? So it's not only extracting knowledge, let's say, to other countries, but also see really what they are doing in their villages, in their ecologies, and I think that's why every destination has a different recipe, a different DNA that we have, let's say, to implement.
Okay, thank you very much, Yanis. If I can bring Andrew to help me summarize on terms of the partnerships, because a lot of the work you do on the Mediterranean Tourism Forum is really about bringing partnerships together. Absolutely. And I guess something that we can help our African colleagues to create these ecosystems where regions are coming together and they learn from collaboration and bring everybody together.
In fact, if I had to use one word to conclude, I would choose synergies. Because it's very clear in the way the world is evolving, the politics, this community, society, technology in itself. If we're not going to get together, we're going to lose the battle. And there are so many things that we can learn from each other. I mean, if I just speak about the Mediterranean region, if there's something which we really excel is tourism. We've run the mile, we've done a lot of great things, we've done also big mistakes. And this is where we can also learn from each other. So that Africa should learn from our great things, our success, but also learn from our mistakes, not to repeat them. And that will give advantage, why not, to the African destinations to excel and stand out and attract, of course, the new crowd of tourism that is currently evolving across the world.
I like that because it says partnerships through synergies, and it's about milking the knowledge that we've got already. It's not about reinventing the wheel. It's about bringing all the ecosystem together in different African countries coming together. It's working with other regions. It's all about equitable return on the investment and the resources that we use in a sustainable way and engaging all the different people for co-creation of benefit and sharing the benefit, not only with the shareholders, which, of course, we are all shareholders, but also across the different constituencies.
If I may, just a conclusion, because we have to remember also that we're here talking about the future of the UN tourism. And that's where UN tourism has to be relevant. Currently, I have to say that we knock the doors and we're not seeing that place, that forum where we can get together and share that knowledge. We need a reformed UN tourism agency where it creates the forum, where it brings together the Mediterranean region, Europe, Africa, and all the other continents together to create the synergies. And of course, we're very hopeful that our friend Harry will be the leader for this new reformed agency.
I guess the Mission 100 is not only for Africa, but there must be a Mission 100 for Europe as well, right?
Dimitri, don't forget, though, that we are also competing at the same time.
Yeah, but
Right?
Competition.
We're competing.
Yeah,
You're building bridges, you create synergies, but you compete.
You compete.
Because Greece, for example, had 35 million. Saudi Arabia is planning to have 150 million tourists by 2030. That's a new kid on the block that nobody actually saw coming 5 years ago. I was in Dubai last week at the ATM. I mean, that region is a big competitor to yours, and it's a big competitor to us. So how, and this is why, the United Nations and whoever leads is how do you bring all these regions that they have their own vested interest, because they compete with each other, to create the synergies and build the bridges.
Absolutely, but equally, you've got so much market that cannot actually travel.
I was going to say that,
Yeah.
you're talking about 150 million, 35 million. What's the world population?
Yeah.
That's not even up to 10%. I'm saying the market is there.
Yeah.
And what we should be thinking of is how to make this more affordable and accessible.
Yeah.
The market is there. A lot of people are not traveling. You'd be shocked that Americans don't have passports.
No,
There are more
I
than- there are
know.
more
I
than
work for
90% of
them.
them. They have
I work
passports.
for them, so I know.
Imagine, and I've been to some part of Greece before, and the guys were like, I don't even have a passport. So what we should be doing more is the market is there. We shouldn't be
And I think-
concerned about the competition.
150 million middle class from India is going to travel in the next 5 years.
I think one of the things that we learned over COVID is that we don't need 30 pairs of shoes. We don't need so much stuff, material stuff that we're buying.
Speak for yourself, by the way, but
How many pairs of shoes do you need?
Yeah.
But look, we need the experiences, and the experiences are happening when we travel, when we have communities. I know that we are not going to solve all the problems in 30 minutes, and I'd like to thank our panel.
Thank you very much.
And I'd like to invite our panel to the front so we can take a picture, and then Aradhana is going to take forward to the next step. Thank you very much.
Where do we start?